You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Good morning. My name is Joyce Duriga. I'm the editor of the Chicago Catholic, and welcome to Beyond the Headlines. This is where we go beyond the headlines just on the stories that we've covered and take a little deeper look into meeting the people behind the stories and who are doing the good works throughout the Archdiocese of Chicago. So today, I'm excited. We have Katie Joy Daufenbach from the Athenaeum Center for Thought and Culture, which is a new center that's over in Lakeview, Lincoln Park, next to St. Alphonsus Church, that's starting up to do some great art programs. And we'll just let Katie Joy talk about it. So, Katie Joy, welcome.
For being here today, speaking with you.
My pleasure. So, tell everybody what the Athenaeum Center for Culture, Thought and Culture is.
Yeah, so the Athenaeum Center for Thought and Culture, it's a theater building that was built by the Redemptorist Fathers back in 1911 as part of the St. Alphonsus campus. So it's owned by the Archdiocese, but over the last several years, it's kind of been operated by different non-religious entities. So really, our hope with now starting this new Athenaeum Center for Thought and Culture is to really bring it back to our roots. And our mission at the Athenaeum is to invite people into encounters with beauty and to really revitalize the great Catholic tradition of the arts from this location in one of Chicago's most unique religious, artistic, and civic buildings.
It's a historic building, right? Like it's the longest running, we think, community theater outside the
largest off-loop theater in Chicago, for sure. Yeah, so they've been doing a lot of good work there since 1911. It's hosted a lot of different productions, community gatherings throughout the year, so really rich history to build on, for sure.
And it's still doing that, right? Like you're still having, based on your website and stuff, you're still having what I would call secular productions, but then you're also going to have...
Yes.
Okay.
So we have a lot of space. It's a really big building, as you saw from the photos there. There's a 1,000 seat proscenium theater, and then we also have 2 black box studio theaters. And then we're actually in the process, we just broke ground on a new multi-purpose event space. It's going to be like a really, really gorgeous new space that we can use for, retreats, lectures, receptions, talkbacks, things like that. So we're building that out right now. There's also a lot of office and rehearsal space. So we're really an asset to community in terms of providing affordable rental space for productions. And we host a lot of different theater companies. We, been home to the Lakeview Orchestra for many years now, different ballet companies. So we do operate as a rental house, but the goal with our new organization, the Athenaeum Center for Thought and Culture, is to really start curating our own programming and producing new works that kind of promote this mission of bringing more beauty into the world and into culture.
It's exciting. How did you guys come up? It was you and your husband mainly who founded this. How did it come about?
Yeah, so my husband Lawrence and we've been long-term parishioners at St. Alphonsus. And so kind of always knew of the Athenaeum, but it's really funny because the Athenaeum was run by different organizations and not really associated with the church. Many people don't realize that it was, owned by St. Al's, was owned by the Archdiocese. They kind of just thought it was its own thing. But, as parishioners, we were like, gosh, there's this beautiful building. It's really being underutilized. How cool would it be if it was like a Catholic center for art? My husband and I are both sort of artist by trade. My background's in theater. His background is in cinematography. So we kind of had this artistic bent. And then as parishioners had the Athenaeum in our mind of like, oh gosh, this is such a great resource. I wish the church was taking advantage of this more. And so we kind of had that mindset for years of like, gosh, someone should do something with the Athenaeum. Someone should really do something with the Athenaeum. There's so much potential here. And then it was really on our honeymoon. I think my husband was reading a Bishop Barron book. We're both like big Bishop Barron Word on Fire fans. And he talks a lot about the intersection of faith and beauty. So I think he was reading this book and surrounded by the beauty of the Alps and just like really inspired and steeped in beauty and was like, maybe we should do something about the Athenaeum. And that's what really started getting the ball rolling on, okay, if we were to, take over this building, what would it look like? How would we do this? And that started the process about, 3-4 years ago. And just in this past year, we've really been able to, get started.
It's exciting. So what are you hoping to do? You had your initial program was on Dante in November. Yeah. It was a musical production? So
we did our kickoff. So last year, 2021, which is our kickoff year, was actually the year of Dante in Italy. It was 700 years since Dante's death. We also, in our historic proscenium theater, there's a big medallion right above the stage of Dante meeting Beatrice. So it seemed sort of everything was coming together of like, Dante. And so Elizabeth Lev, I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but she's a Catholic art historian. She also sits on our board at the Athenaeum. And so she flew in from Rome and we kind of did this big Dante extravaganza, which was sort of a combining art history and Liz's own story. Dante is super, played a big role in her life and in her conversion, deepening of her faith. So combined kind of her story and her deep knowledge of Dante and his art. And then we also had the Scola Antiqua, which is an early music collective based out of the University of Chicago. So they perform different musical works from the time period. And then we also had local Chicago area actors perform some of the cantos, and it was all sort of interwoven together. So a beautiful just kind of immersion into Dante and into the Divine Comedy, into the text. And, I'd never really seen Dante perform before. I read it in college, but it was kind of a unique experience, I think, for a lot of us. So that was the first of what we hope to be a lot of robust programming. We're actually having, a Dante seminar coming up, kind of building off of that. Father Bob is going to be leading a 10-week seminar on the Divine Comedy, really diving into that some more. But the goal long term is to really create a community of people that we're evangelizing through beauty. So we want to put on different shows, different programming that invites people to encounter beauty, creates a space for dialogue, and really cultivates the art. I think that the Catholic Church used to be really the leading driving force behind social and cultural life, shaping the moral imagination of the world. You think about all the great art, the cathedrals of Europe, the paintings of Michelangelo, even just the tradition of like orchestral, choral music. All of these are products of a church that was deeply engaged in public life and human expression. And I think in the last couple decades, century or so, like we've really lost our voice as a leading voice in the creation of art. And so as we've lost that, I think, secularism has sort of replaced Christianity as the leading spirit in Western culture. And as we've lost that, we've lost a sense of the world as sacred. And so I think from our perspective and the church's perspective, these transcendentals, truth, beauty, goodness, they always accompany one another. So as we're losing beauty, we're really or as we're losing truth and goodness, we're losing beauty, all of these things come together. So I think if we can bring more beauty into the world, we're going to bring more goodness, and we're going to lead people to encounters with truth as well. So all these really go hand in hand, and that's the goal. Become a leading voice again. So not creating anything, not reinventing the wheel. This is what the church was doing from the beginning of its inception, and I think we've just kind of stumbled a little bit, and we need to retake that position.
And can you talk a little about why it's important? Because you'll some folks will say, well, why waste the money on, doing something like that? We should be more focused on social services and such. But it all's part and parcel, right? Like it all fits together. And so why does it matter? Why should we?
Yeah, no, certainly not going to say don't spend money on social services. All of these things, as you say, like go so hand in hand, right? But I think that when we encounter something beautiful, when, you know, the soul meets something that really makes it wonder, you know, Aristotle tells us like wisdom begins in wonder. And I think that when you encounter something beautiful, it really helps you to know yourself in a more deep way. It leads to some self-knowledge. It helps you to encounter the other in a deeper way. And ultimately, I think it helps you to encounter the divine. Beauty leads us to the divine. And I think JP2 is super clear in his letter to artists. I don't know if you're familiar with JP2's letter to artists, but in a lot of the documents of Vatican II, talk about the importance of art. And, you know, he tells us that in order to communicate, he says this I'm quoting from his letter to artists. He says, in order to communicate the message entrusted to her by Christ, the church needs art. And it's through his artistic creativity that man appears more than ever in the image of God. So JP2 tells us like we need art. And I think that, you know, beauty is the visible form of the good. And so it's through art that we're going to know ourselves more, know others more, and ultimately know God.
Yeah, he was great for that, right? Because he was an actor and was,
he's
in all that stuff. And
he wrote a lot of good stuff. Hopefully, you know, maybe someday we'll put it on at the Athenaeum and get to know that more, bring it more to more people.
Oh, that would be fun. Okay, you know, we're going to take a quick break in a minute, but that's what I really want to talk about when we come back is, you know, that encounter with art and how it can move us, and then, you know the role it plays. Like we talk a lot about, not talk a lot about, but you see it in secular things too. That people are moved by the different forms of art or music, and they may not realize that it's transcendental, but it really is, and it connects us more, like you said, with the divine. So, okay, we'll take a quick
Absolutely.
break. This is Beyond the Headlines, and we're talking to Katie Joy Daufenbach about the Athenaeum Center for Thought and Culture. We'll be right back. Thank you. Is there...
At Catholic Charities, we fight hunger in Chicago throughout the year. Our 6 regional offices in Cook and Lake counties work together to offer sit-down and to-go meals to anyone in need. We deliver meals to those who are homebound, and our 8 food pantries offer 3 to 4 days of food supplies based on household size. Participants in these programs have the opportunity to learn about other Catholic charity services that strengthen individuals, families, and their communities. The challenges for those dealing with food insecurity are especially great during the winter months. To learn how you can help those who are hungry in your neighborhood, visit CatholicCharities.net or call 312-655-7525. That's 312-655-7525. Thank you for your generosity.
We are at the Most Blessed Trinity Parish Food Pantry in Waukegan.
And here we care for people in need. There was definitely an uptick in the needs for services.
We doubled our volume after COVID hit, from servicing about 250 families a week to about 500 a week. We supply bread, tortillas, vegetables, milk, cheese, butter, proteins, fish, chicken, eggs.
Well, the annual Catholic Appeal has been a tremendous help to us, especially over the past year and a half.
Without the annual Catholic Appeal, we might have to close our doors. Our parish is the largest one in the Archdiocese, but is very poor. We think about food and we think about nourishment, but we also nourish the soul, provide that connection to humanity.
The good works here are made possible through the Annual Catholic Appeal. Make your gift at annualcatholicappeal.com.
Welcome back. I'm Joyce Duriga. I'm editor of the Chicago Catholic, the newspaper for the Archdiocese of Chicago. This is Beyond the Headlines, where we take a closer look at the stories and the people making the news and doing the good works around the Archdiocese. Short plug for the paper. You can find us at chicagocatholic.com. We come out every 2 weeks. The subscription's $25 a year, and you can follow us on social media. And we also, if you go to chicagocatholic.com, you can sign up for our newsletter that comes out. It's free. It comes out a couple times a week. So today we're talking to Katie Joy Daufenbach from the Athenaeum Center for Thought and Culture. It's new. It's over on the campus of St. Alphonsus Church, and they're doing some great things around art and culture. So, Katie Joy, welcome back.
Thanks so much, Joyce.
So I've always had this interest in the intersection of, I'm not sure why, of art and faith. So, for example, like Elvis, when he was asked what his favorite albums were that he created, it was the gospel music. Same thing with Johnny Cash. And I don't know if you know, but Matisse did he developed a strange friendship with a nun in France, and he ended up doing this little, right? And he's wasn't Catholic, and he did everything from the vestments to the pews to the, and it's so fascinating. And that was like he considered that his greatest work. And
his favorite, yeah.
Yeah, and his favorite. And it seems like there's this something in the heart and the soul of artists that they know this gift is from a higher power, and that they have a responsibility to do something with it and to maybe give back to the creator somehow. Do you find that in your encounter with things that you found that with other artists or anything?
Absolutely. Well, I think most artists are like asking the deep questions, right? Like their art, they want it to mean something. And so I think that whether or not they know they're searching, like they are. And so, and trying to find the answers to these big questions in life through their art. So I think in that sense, as we're creating and as we're searching, that's, one of the ways that art has the capacity to help us ask those questions and then find the answer to that question, which as Catholics, we know to be our creator, right? He's the one who gifted us with these abilities. And so that's why I think JP2 says through his artistic creativity, man appears like more than ever in the image of God. When we're creating, we're participating in the work of God. And I think you sort of feel that intrinsically in your sense. And, maybe you don't know, maybe they don't know what it is, but there's some, deep communion and power that comes with that because it is an encounter with our creator, your mutual creation. So it's powerful stuff, right?
Absolutely. I always thought it would be fun if we could figure out a way to fund a kind of a competition sort of, but where we invited all artists, maybe like each year would be a different form. Maybe one would be poetry, one would be sculpture, and kind of around the question of a higher power. And then they would be awarded grants and stuff, but then it would generate kind of this discussion. That's my dream. I don't know where that ever would come from. But,
hey, very cool. Well, one of our long-term goals, we have a lot of lofty goals at the Athenaeum, but one of our long-term hopes and dreams is to create an artist in residency program at the Athenaeum Center for Thought and Culture, to have space where artists could come and be supported and create, new great works of art that could then share with the public. So that is a long-term goal. So.
What's been the reaction to the community to? I mean, Alphonsus. I mean, their school there the school has an arts focus too. So it seems like it's a good place to do all this stuff. But what's the response that you've been receiving so far?
Honestly, like a super warm response so far. The Athenaeum has been a really integral part of the neighborhood. And, I think it's been a weird couple years for everyone with COVID and sort of been this separation from encounters with art, from encounters with community. And so I think that that's really made everyone that much more hungry for it because we miss it. We know how important it is. And so I think, getting to do that event in November and come together and have this shared experience of beauty was really so profound for so many of us because it was like, gosh, our souls need this.
Like finally we can be back. And
yeah, it's important.
Are there some examples of in your life where you felt that transcend? Like, was it a Mozart piece or was it, a book or yeah?
Yeah, gosh, so many. I would say, so my training is actually in theater. I did my undergrad at Northwestern in theater, and I'm gonna sound like a total nerd here, but I love the Russians. Yeah. So I really I hadn't encountered any Russian literature or before college, and then it was really in college that I started reading, Chekhov, Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, and memorizing it as well. I think when you have to, memorize things to perform, you really just get a deep knowledge. And I think there's so much truth in that in Russian literature that I encountered that really helped me to understand, myself and humanity in a more fundamental way and encounter Christ through that. And I think that's a great example that you were talking about too, Joyce, where like, it's not Catholic per se, but there's so much truth and goodness in it that it is Catholic. And I think that that's what we're trying to do at the Athenaeum as well, where it's like, it's not going to be like, everything we do is not going to be religious per se, but it's going to have this beauty, truth, and goodness that is Christocentric.
That's going to be exciting. Are there other ideas you have for this year that you can talk about, or are you still planning? I know you're having a Dante thing.
So we actually have an advisory committee that we've put together, just different people from different artistic disciplines here in Chicago and even nationally that are helping us kind of formulate what we should be doing. So it is in a process, and we haven't like made a firm decision on what our next thing is, but there's a lot of things in the running right now. So I can't speak to it just yet, but a lot of exciting things brewing. So yeah, more to come very soon.
And you have Bishop Mark Bartosik on your board. He was an actor. So he
was. Yeah. So yeah, Bishop Bartosik is a part of that advisory committee and has just been wonderful.
We covered shortly after he became a bishop, he did this, I can't quite remember what it was exactly, but it was this acting piece. He and this woman did this, Saint Bernard? Oh, Claire.
Was that at St. Gregory's?
It was.
Yes. Okay. So my husband went to go see that. I was home with our baby.
Okay.
We tag team. So I did not get to see it, but I heard all about it and I heard it was wonderful.
Yeah, he did a great job. And it's so funny seeing a bishop up there doing acting because you're like, it takes you a minute to get it.
I hear you were so talented. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's been a super helpful asset. And it's just great to have, obviously the bishop on this committee and to help guide it. It's all very like nuanced, and I think we're very much committed to excellence in everything that we do. And so it's been so helpful to have his voice and his guidance as we're kind of wading through all the different, options and trying to pursue excellence as we pursue beauty.
Do you have any suggestions for somebody who might be listening to this that might say, hey, I want to get into some of this, or I want to try and understand more the relationship between faith and beauty? I mean, Bishop Barron's been doing some great stuff a lot of what Word and Fire does talks about that. And he has that new magazine out that I just saw. I know it's been out for a few months or maybe a year, but yeah. Do you have any suggestions on where someone could start? Or
I think a great place to start is JP2's Letters to Artists. I know I referenced it at the beginning of our conversation, but that for me, I read that also when I was in college, and then my husband and I read it together when we were dating again. And, I like to revisit it from time to time because there is just such a deep calling for artists. And I think JP2 just does a great job talking about the importance and really, basically saying all the things that I'm trying to say today in a deeply eloquent way. So he's just, that's a great place for someone who's, feeling that artistic calling, trying to think through like, what is my relationship? How can I live out my calling as a person of faith and as an artist? And I think when I'm saying artist, I use the term really broadly. I think all of us can be artists in lots of different senses. I think, sometimes we can have this narrow vision of what that means of like, I don't paint, I don't sculpt, I don't, but I think that we can be artists in a broad variety of ways. And so I think even reading that can open your mind to like, how am I an artist? Where am I called to create? Where is the Lord calling me to use this creative ability?
I'm going to have to go reread it. I had read once, have you read, you probably have, Jacques Martin's Responsibility of the Artist?
I've read selections, not the whole thing.
Yeah, that's good stuff too. That's, if you ever get the chance, I think it's out of print, but I got it on Amazon it's a used copy, but he talks about the same thing. And it's really a call to action. He's giving an address, but it was call to action, just like JP2 about, the need for it and the creation. And I agree with you 100%. I think there's a wider, there are a lot of artists out there in different ways. I mean, you can be an artist with cooking. You can be an artist, writing like what we do. You can do in videography. You can do in a lot of different ways. But yeah, I think we do pigeonhole and just say, oh, it's just painting and sculpture and Michelangelo and all the rest.
Right. No, which can be discouraging if you're like, gosh.
Absolutely, because most of us aren't on that level. So, but I want to encourage everybody to go to your website. It's Athenaeum Center. Athenaeumcenter.org. And I know that there's a newsletter that you can sign up for there, and you can follow you on social media. And I wish you all the best. I think this is exciting. I did sign up for your newsletter this morning, so I want to keep in touch.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Well,
please do stay tuned. Obviously, this is just the beginning. We're just getting started, so a lot of exciting things coming. This is our full inaugural year, so a lot of programming. We're starting we have like a founders club, which if you are passionate about this intersection of faith and beauty and really evangelizing the culture through beauty, and you're looking for a way to give back and get involved, that's a great way to do that, is to become a founder of the Athenaeum. So check out our website for more information about that. But lots of exciting things coming.
Is there any other ways that? Okay, they're telling me 1 more minute, so I'll just wrap it up. So this is Joyce Duriga from Chicago Catholic. Katie Joy Daufenbach has been joining us from the Athenaeum Center. I keep saying it different ways. For Center for Thought and Culture. Check out their website, and please thank you for listening today. And if you're viewing us on YouTube, we thank you for joining us today. And keep in touch with us at ChicagoCatholic.com. And I'm Joyce Duriga, the editor of Chicago Catholic. And until next time, have a gentle and joy-filled day. Thank you.